Welcome back everyone to another episode of covering Guts and Blackpowder lore. Today we're covering two maps again, Trafalgar House and Moss Ironworks. Be sure to join my Discord server to join events based on historical games on Roblox, including Guts and Blackpowder. As always, I've only used the main Guts and Blackpowder wiki as a source. Be sure to fact check it in case I made any mistakes in this video. Now, let's begin. We start this video right where we left off last time, the UK, in Trafalgar House. This house was formerly owned by none other than Horatio Nelson, a legendary British naval commander who died fighting at the victorious Battle of Trafalgar. It takes place in September to October in 1815, after London and Westminster. The Blight has absolutely ravaged throughout England. The Brits aren't to be underestimated though, and by this note in the map, it seems like they're winning against the Blight. They struck a quote-unquote heavy blow to the Blight, retaking Portsmouth, an important naval base. It also tells that the king has an active plan of defending England by having the army occupy or make fortresses. This is similar to the plans the Brits had at Waterloo, as they occupied Hougoumont, and that went great. Trafalgar House is one of these makeshift fortresses, mostly serving as a depot for supplies. We must hold the house until we are relieved by another company. Now, in Trafalgar House, lore is mostly delivered through player dialogue, which is fun and not tedious at all. This dialogue, alongside this note here, does reveal quite the bombshell. A demoralized soldier says that King George III has apparently died to the Blight, and asks if the other soldiers know about this too. Now, of course, this could just be a rumor, but this wouldn't be as significant as it is, if not for this note here, starting with, by order of the acting king, the Prince of Wales. So does this mean King George III is dead? And what does that mean for the Prussian royal family, who fled to London, most likely accompanying the British king? Finally, for Trafalgar House, there's a note left behind by a very demoralized soldier. He complains about the conditions he finds himself in, and describes experiences with the Blight. He seems to be quite experienced. Maybe the writer is a veteran from the Waterloo campaign, about 2 months prior to Trafalgar House. Like most later maps in the timeline, the note describes symptoms of sickness caused by the Blight, but interestingly enough, it also describes how one is to win against the Blight, by holding fortresses, fortifying positions. This proved to be successful in St. Petersburg and Kaup, for example. The writer ends the note expressing remorse about the Waterloo campaign, expressing how they should have simply burnt the French countryside. The British blame the French. Ironic. But we all know it was the British generals who abandoned their posts at Waterloo. Now, as far as we know, Trafalgar House is successfully defended, and it continues to serve as a depot. If fortifications like this keep holding strong throughout England, there might yet be a chance for Western Europe. But anyway, now we're moving on to... Now for the second map we'll be covering, we find ourselves in the Norwegian city of Moss, alongside its ironworks nearby, hence the name Moss Ironworks. It is known throughout Napoleonic history mostly for the Treaty of Moss, but more on that later. Looking at the map in-game, it looks rough. The undead are everywhere, streets are ravaged, buildings worn down, and scattered corpses are everywhere. There's messages stained on posters and in front of houses. It's a mess. That being said though, I love this map. The map takes place in what I assume to be December 1815 to possibly January 1816, due to the notes in the map carrying the date of 1815, and there being various Christmas trees around the map. This is interesting, as Guts and Blackpowder never really crossed the 1816 time point, but I guess here we are. Now, the reason we go to the Ironworks area of the map is probably because we've received word that the NPC, known as Ironworker, plans to leave the city, and he's our only chance at escape. But in order for us to be taken with him, we must complete the order he was given, making swivel guns for the army up north. Hence why we collect coal and iron before reaching the NPC. Also, a thing I've noticed, the relationship between the Swedes and Norwegians is a bit unstable. The executed corpses here were showing signs of infection but weren't fully grey, indicating that they were perhaps executed by Swedish soldiers who couldn't care less about people that aren't from their homeland. Now, Moss was prepared to a degree for the arrival of the Blight. One of the notes is very similar to the ones in London, describing symptoms to the Blight in detail, but just like London, to no avail. Another note showcases a soldier writing to his wife. He mentions the regrouping of the army in the north, conveniently where our boy the Ironworks is also headed, alongside the survivors of the map. Also, a sickness that is not the Blight has ravaged Moss, killing most of the townspeople. And the king, Charles XIII, but more on that later, has ordered the construction of a hospital, which the writer of the note calls pathetic. There's also this note located in Moss, explaining how certain zombie types work, and it's really cool. The writer of the note has done an autopsy on several zombies. For zombies like cuirassiers and sappers, the connections between mind and action are still active, albeit malformed. This could explain why they hold onto items from when they were alive, like axes and swords. Since shamblers have been explained to be super strong, maybe this mind-muscle connection is stronger too? This is also explained further in the note, as it tells us the zombies feel an intense amount of rage compared to no other emotions. Finally, for Moss, there's two more notes that quite contradict each other. One is calling out soldiers to enlist to fight in Bergen, where a supposedly combined Scandinavian force is positioning to the north, further proving that a large rally of troops is taking place there. But the other note showcases the Norwegian coat of arms and calls for an assembly against the king. It calls the king fat and blames him for doing nothing against the Blight. Now, in real life history, Norway and Denmark were two kingdoms ruled by one king, Frederick VI. They supported Napoleon during the Napoleonic Wars, but in 1814, Napoleon was of course slowly losing. Eventually, after a war of their own, this Danish-Norwegian kingdom joins with Sweden in 1814. It goes from being ruled by Danish King Frederick VI to eventually being ruled by Swedish King Charles XIII, who was appointed the king at the Treaty of Moss. You think this Treaty of Moss in 1814 most likely never happened in Guts Blackpowder lore due to the ending of the Napoleonic Wars at Leipzig in 1813. Yet, the note mentions Norway joining Sweden, hence why the writer is spreading these notes. So it seems like Sweden is taking over the Danish-Norwegian kingdom one way or another, possibly for other reasons than in our real-life history. And the paper seeks to rally people to prevent it, creating and keeping an independent Norwegian kingdom. You can see it in the map too. The Swedes definitely have an attitude towards the Danes or Norwegians, and vice versa. So, the king these papers is referring to is probably Charles XIII. Sorry Charles, honestly, you don't look that fat. And as far as we know thus far, the NPC and the surviving players do make it to the north, and safely supplied with the guns we've made. Now, there's one big final elephant in the room that I forgot to address, and that's this piece of work here. This map pretty much confirms the state of Scandinavia and the Baltics anno January 1816. Let's take a quick gander, shall we? Denmark, Lithuania, Finland, Latvia, and the west coast of Sweden have all fallen to the Blight. Yet the peninsula seems mostly intact, and with fortifications up north, this gives the majority of Scandinavia a fighting chance against the Blight. Regardless of how things work out in the future, I think humanity still has a chance to overcome this threat. How cool would it be to have an all-out allied Scandinavian assault against the Blight for a map? Or a British one for that matter. In any case, time will tell. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Thanks for watching!